Welcome back to Dream Big, and this is where we do our new nuggets each day, Monday through Friday. Only about 15 minutes, and we just pick out a little bit that we can talk about that we that stood out or we didn't get a chance to in the morning, or something that maybe will be a boost for you for the rest of the day, and maybe something that you can just ponder on a little bit. And so, just like normal, put your praise reports and the prayer request in the chat box so we can join you in praying and just lifting you up. Sometimes we need that, don't you think? And so uh, I want to jump into Psalms um, 29 for our reading today. And I hope you've read it. And I hope that you started soaking up what it says about how big our God is, how powerful He is. He's not just this what do I want to say? Just this spirit that just floats around and sprinkles dust on us, or you, whatever you want to say. He's the the big God, the only God. Now, whenever in this Psalm of David, 1 through 11, it it really captures everything about what God is, that we can say in like 11 verses. He's just so much more than any of this, but this gives us some good picture. Now, to begin with, I noticed, I mean, every verse said the Lord in it in some way, shape, or form. So I went through and I highlighted every time that it had Lord in it. Well, there's 18 times David is speaking about the Lord in these 11 verses. Whenever you put somebody's name down over and over and over, it just magnifies it. It uh, it's using his name in this repetition of this psalm, and just letting us know how big he is. The Lord. It's all in caps, and that's his covenant name. Now this name, with the loud thunder, the repeated flashes of lightning in the sky, the ear splitting claps of thunder, emphasize the power over everything that we could ever or never touch. We have no control over what is talking about here at all. We can't lasso a thunderbolt. We can't put the mute button on a thunderclap. We can't stop the rain. The Lord can do all of this. It begins by saying, honor the Lord, you heavenly beings. Honor the Lord for his glory and strength. Honor the Lord for the glory of his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. This is how we worship him. We worship his strength, his name, and his holiness. Then as we go on to verse 3, now it's talking about his voice. And this is like, oh, I don't know, about 8 times or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 times. So I highlighted that. Everything pops out at me whenever I see that repetition, and I highlighted it. So these are 7 descriptions of the voice of the Lord, and each one is emphasizing the idea of strength and authority of God expressed through his voice. So where have we heard that before? Remember when we go back into Genesis, how did he create the world? He spoke. Every time, whatever it was he made, if you go back to Genesis 1, it says, and God said, let there be light. And God said, let there be an expanse between the waters. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered in one place. And God said, let there be light. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures. And God said, let the land produce creatures. And then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant. God said and everything about him is spoken. And then what else did he do? He breathed in and made life. His voice created, his breath created, his voice created the world, his breath recreated life. I'm trying to say that right, or how I wanted to say it. So his voice echoes above the sea. This is like the thunders, the glory of thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty sea. And then his sovereignty is expressed in three different words or statements: over the sea, over the mountains, and over the wilderness. So the voice of the Lord echoes above the sea. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the sea. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord splits the mighty cedars. The Lord shatters the cedars of Lebanon. And we know that those cedars of Lebanon are huge. They're like 120 foot tall and can be 30 feet in circumference. No big deal to him. He makes the Lebanon's mountains skip like a calf. It goes on down. The voice of the Lord strikes with bolts of lightning. The voice of the Lord makes the barren wilderness shake or quake. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord twists mighty oaks. In his temple, everyone shouts glory. And then 10 and 11, the Lord rules over the floodwaters. The Lord reigns as king forever. The Lord gives his people strength. The Lord blesses them with peace. Our Lord is king in his position, by his promise, and with his peace. So how big do you think God is? Do you believe this? Whenever you pray, do you believe that big God that can split the cedars, that can level the mountains, that can stop the storms, that can shoot that lightning bolt tons of times throughout the whole world, can he help you? Can he fix your health issue, your finances? You stubbed your toe. Do you think that he cares about your little toe? Oh, he does. If you go look at Ephesians 1, 19 through the end of that chapter, talks about God's power. I pray, and I'm reading this out of the Passion, I pray that you will continually experience the immeasurable greatness of God's power. We just read how powerful God is. His voice commands everything. He spoke and created. Remember that. It says, I'm going to say it again. I pray that you will continually experience the immeasurable greatness of God's power made available to you through faith. What's your faith look like? You've got all the faith you need. All you have to do is exercise it. Pray about strengthening your faith. Then your lives will be an advertisement of this immense power, this power that we just talked about, as it works through you. This mighty power that was released when God raised Christ from the dead and exalted him to the place of the highest honor and the supreme authority in the heavenly realms. And now he is exalted as first above every ruler, authority, government, and realm of power in existence. He is gloriously enthroned over every name that is ever praised, not only in this age, but in the ages to come. The Lord rules. The Lord reigns. He gives his people strength. Look at Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, he says, for I am with you, the great I am. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. Even though I can calm the storm, I can do everything that we talked about here. I can do everything that I did in Genesis 1 all over again if I wanted to. I can help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And then Philippians 4:13, well, that's for us. I can do everything through him that gives me strength. He gives me strength. Just like it says in verse 11, the Lord gives his people strength. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Do you believe this? Can you soak this up today? Can you meditate on this? Lynn, I see I know you're meditating on this today, Lynn. I know that you're going to go read this over and over, and you're not going to let this out of your sight until you just keep looking at how big God is. Now, it says, the Lord blesses you with strength and peace. Let's talk about the peace. I will listen to what God, the Lord, will say. He promises peace to his people, his saints. That's you. Great peace have they who love your law, and nothing can make them stumble. That's for you. You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast because he trusts you. Here's another one. The mind controlled by the Spirit is life and peace. What's on your mind? What are you thinking about? Is that some of that stinking thinking as Joyce Myers talks about? Stop that. Quit thinking about things you shouldn't be thinking about. Philippians 4:8 tells you what to dwell on, if it is admirable, if it's true, if it's excellent, if it's pure, if it's right. Think of that kind of stuff. Don't think about what ifs, because that takes you down a rabbit trail. When a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, he makes even his enemies live at peace with them. What's your ways look like today? Could this be something that would help you get through the rest of your workday, or the rest of your day with friends, family, or whatever? Remember, this says in Psalms 29:10 and 11, the Lord rules, the Lord reigns, he gives his people strength, and he blesses them with peace. His voice is so big, and this is good. This is good. I got to read this to you also. When the Lord's voice echoes through the whole universe, and this is just a scientific guess, that would be the best thing I could say. Scientists calculate that a typical thunderstorm releases about 10 million kilowatts hours of energy, the equivalent of a 20 kiloton nuclear warhead. Storms are still examples of the massive power of God. So what happens whenever we hear thunder, we see lightning, we look up. We look to see where it's at. He gets our attention, doesn't he? This would be like him getting our attention. We look up and we seek shelter, because it's so big that we don't want to be out in case if we get struck by lightning. But isn't it amazing to think sometimes that we don't even believe that he can heal us, he can comfort us in our hour of need? And then we read Psalms 29. He can do it all, folks. It doesn't have to just be what we choose. He can do everything, because He's God and He loves you. So, Cassie, thank you for joining me at noon today, joining me and Lynn. So, you all have a great rest of the day, and I will see you in the morning.